It was a moment that shocked everyone. Charlie Kirk, a political activist, podcaster, and a husband and father of 2 small children, shot and killed on the campus of Utah Valley University in front of a crowd of 3,000 people. Charlie has been traveling the country for years, speaking to students and sharing his platform with people who disagree with him, engaging in public debate in the public square. And in the midst of exchanging ideas with a student, he was murdered. The alleged killer, a student from another school. Tonight, that student is under arrest and charged, and tonight we take a closer look at the timeline of events, the evidence, and how this case will develop inside a courtroom as we continue our coverage of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. We've got a lot to get to, and we may have some things that happened during the course of this hour that will be new information relative to what happened to Charlie Kirk. So make sure you stay with us. Let's begin by saying this is absolutely a tragic loss, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, on many different levels. And of course, it begins with his children, his wife, and his family. Now, we may hear from his wife sometime this hour. There is talk that she may, in fact, come out and speak publicly for the first time. So if that happens, obviously you'll see it and hear it right here. But the tragedy really, to me, goes beyond that, because where it happened, at a university, in front of all the young people that are there, in a place where we are supposed to be able to air our ideas and debate our ideas. That's the whole point of college. I mean, that's the whole point of it to begin with. And for him to be silenced in this way at that time is the next level of this tragedy, beyond what has happened to his family. Now, let's talk about the investigation here and how this went on, this manhunt. One of the first things that we saw was this blurry image of the suspect. This is after the first 2 catch and releases that happened, right? Early on, a man was dragged. It wasn't him. Then a second person was taken into custody, questioned, and released. Then we got this image. It was a little bit blurry, but it seems that if you knew the person, you may very well recognize them, despite the nature of the image itself. So we saw that. Then they're still looking for help from the public, and then they released the rooftop escape video, which was dramatic, but definitely was able to paint a clear picture of what happened. The shooter was on a rooftop. There were reports of that, and this basically confirmed that the shooter somehow had gotten on the roof to get an angle, to take that single shot, to take Charlie Kirk's life. And then it was all about the escape and the chase and the manhunt, and he sort of scaled halfway down that wall and then jumped the rest of the way, and then basically ran off and took off. But now we know that he's in custody, the suspect. There's his mugshot. There's no more manhunt tonight. Now the investigation, they're digging into it. But what we learned today is kind of how this happened, where the suspect was earlier in the day, what happened, the timing, and when he left. And what's interesting when you kind of go through this is to see how easy it seemed to be for him to pull this off. Obviously, he's gotten caught, but to be able to do what he did and take the life of Charlie Kirk. So let's begin by listening to the governor, who's kind of been the spokesperson for all of this, the governor of Utah, Spencer Cox.
Investigators reviewed additional video footage from UVU surveillance and identified Robinson arriving on UVU campus in a gray Dodge Challenger at approximately 8:29 a.m. on September 10th. In which he is observed on video in a plain maroon t-shirt, light-colored shorts, a black hat with a white logo, and light-colored shoes.
So you heard the description of the clothing. That's not what he's wearing here. So there is a change of clothes. So he arrives in the morning wearing the light-colored shoes, black hat, white logo, could be similar, light-colored shorts. And then there is this wardrobe change, and that's what we see him in here in these images that were taken and disseminated. So this was part of the plan, right? This was not someone who was planning on getting caught. He was taking measures to detect being caught. The change of the clothes. Take a listen here again to the governor.
When he's first spotted on campus, he has different clothing on, and then he changes clothing on the roof, and then changed back into that clothing at some point, so that when he was apprehended, when he was arrested, the clothing matched the clothing he had on before the shooting here at UVU.
So the clothing that he was wearing as the shooter, and the governor said he changed on the roof, but it seems those pictures were taken before he was on the roof, because as he jumps off the roof, that's when he's leaving. But when he is caught, when he is apprehended, he has changed back into those original clothes that he was wearing, the light-colored shorts. Now, as we continue to sort of track what happened here, he gets into the university, is up on the roof, and this is the moment. Again, we're not going to show you the moment of impact, but I want to sort of paint the picture once again of what is happening in the moments leading up to the shooting of Charlie Kirk.
In America over the last 10 years. Counting or not counting gang violence? Great.
So that's at about 12:20 or so, and then just a minute or so afterwards, all the attention now is on the rooftop, and you'll see a very small figure running across. This is the video that was released. Look at the top of your screen, the top right. Now it's going to zoom in, and there you will see him. And if we could drop the words on the screen so we can see the video. As he's climbing down, then you'll see him jump all the way down, and he's carrying something with him, and it appears that may very well be the weapon. Take one more look at it. Again, attention to the top of the screen. You'll see a very small figure running across. So he was on the sort of catty corner from where he exits that roof. And that's like the one area where you can get a clean line of sight to where Charlie Kirk was. And again, it was just one shot that did it. People all along wondering, well, where's the weapon? It looks like he is carrying something that is draped with some sort of a blanket or towel over it. And then he takes off. And as he takes off, the camera still captures where he's going, across the grass in the back of the parking lot. Then he's going to get to the road, and as he gets towards that road, there are cars going back and forth, and he has to sort of wait for a moment. So there are going to be witnesses that were in these cars that saw him take off at this moment. And then he heads off into the area where we believe the gun is then left. Here's the governor talking about the weapon.
The content of these messages included messages affiliated with the contact Tyler, stating a need to retrieve a rifle from a drop point, leaving the rifle in a bush, messages related to visually watching the area where a rifle was left, and a message referring to having left the rifle wrapped in a towel. The messages also refer to engraving bullets and a mention of a scope and the rifle being unique.
So what's interesting there is we're not getting a clear timeline. I think a lot of people have interpreted that statement as a message that was sent before the shooting. I've interpreted it as after the shooting, as he needs to retrieve the rifle from where he left it, because the description of where he left it is similar to where they say they found it. But again, more details and more clarity will come as we get more and more information. Right now, I want to bring in a special guest. His name is Colby Davis. He's a senior at the school where this all happened, Utah Valley University. Colby was in the crowd when Charlie Kirk was shot and killed. Colby, thanks so much for joining us to give us this perspective, which is probably the most important perspective because this happened at your school, at an event where you were. I want to understand your day. Describe the atmosphere when you got there and what it was like in the crowd for this event. I think we're having some trouble with your audio. Do we have it fixed? Let's give Colby a moment. Do we have it? All right, we'll wait for Colby's hooking up the audio right now, so it'll just take a moment, folks. But this image is from Colby, and as you take a look at it, that's sort of his perspective that day at the event, and you see so many young people there for this event. Let's bring in our think tank as we take care of Colby's audio. We have Colby. Okay. Colby, can you hear me?
Sorry about that.
No, not a problem. Not a problem at all. So let's get back to that first question. Describe the atmosphere when you got there and what it was like.
Yeah, I received a flyer from my buddy a couple of weeks prior, and there was a buzz. Turning Point, the UVU Turning Point chapter did a great job advertising for this event. There were flyers all over campus. People were excited. I arrived a little early. I had plenty of homework to do, and I remember walking by the courtyard where the event took place, and I stopped at their table. I took a couple flyers. I took a little pocket Constitution with, said some greetings to some of the workers there. They were all very, very kind. And I went and did some homework till about 20 minutes before the event when I walked into the courtyard to meet my friend. I remember the buzz when, the person came out to announce Charlie, and then he walked underneath a little bridge area and everybody just erupted. It was such a cool spirit there. You could feel the patriotism in the air. The questions were great. This was only the second question until the event took place, which horrible. It was electric to say the least. It just very, very patriotic. You could almost cut the patriotism in the air.
Now, in terms of what it was like, was this my interpretation has been that it's just open. It's just like anyone could walk in. It wasn't a ticketed event. It wasn't cordoned off. So part of the atmosphere was just show up. Am I correct?
Yeah, of course. I signed up. I registered about a week before, and I had a QR code ticket. I thought they were going to schedule people to be there to scan your QR codes to maybe ask a question. But when I arrived there, it kind of dawned on me, okay, this is just, everybody's welcome. And so when I walked into the courtyard, it was packed. Just you could walk in from 10 different places.
Now, were there any protesters there? Was there a section of people who were there to try to maybe disrupt or just voice their opinions in opposition to the event or to Charlie?
Of course. In the photo that's on the screen right now, you can see the railing up there. Just to the right of that, there were some protesters who were blocked off from being right above Charlie. Earlier in the day, they were hanging flags in protest right above where Charlie would have been sitting. But when I arrived a couple hours later to the scene of the event, they had moved them directly from where they would have been above him, and they were off to the side. And there were some in the crowd as well. There were plenty of them, and they were making their voices heard. But the ones right above him had been moved. So it seemed as they were trying to take some precaution to keep protesters away.
Gotcha. All right, let's get to the moment now. Describe what the moment was like and what's going through your mind. Is there a realization of what is actually happening? So
the first question took about 15 minutes, And then there was about a 2-minute buffer period, and the second question got up, and they had exchanged a few sentences until Charlie started to respond. And I just remember hearing that bang. And I looked at my buddy at the time, and we were both very familiar with firearms growing up in small towns. And we had puzzled faces on our face because it didn't sound loud enough to be a large firearm. That sounded almost as if it would have been a 22 up close, something small caliber. It wasn't until we started hearing the gasps and the screams when we were then pushed over as everybody was ducking for cover. That's when it started to dawn on me, was when I was trapped underneath other people. I still have scrapes on my knees from having my knees pinned against the concrete. Then I remember my friend looking up at me and just saying, "Run." And I remember we stood up and everybody was pushing. We were trying to do our best to stay calm, kind of realizing what's happened is this is all happening in 10, 15 seconds. But when you're in the moment, it feels like eternity. And I remember getting up and running and seeing a mother holding her baby and just realizing this is chaos. This is evil. This shouldn't be happening here at my school. This is somewhere where we're supposed to come and learn. Part of the thing of UVU that students always say is like, nothing happens here. Like, we don't have a football team. We come here to go to school and get our degree. We're not the most popular school in the state. That's just how UVU is kind of thought about in the student body sometimes. And just that fact when that's dawning on you, we were running through the building and I turned to the people I was with and I said, my car's closest, it's in the parking garage and it's connected through the university. And as we're running through the university, I start to hear people behind me saying, "Charlie's shot, Charlie's shot." And that's when it really started to dawn on me, and we kicked it into high gear and we're sprinting through the halls. And we ran up into the second level where it connects into the parking garage, and I see teachers down below start to drop the metal gate doors, closing off the doors, saying, "Everybody, there's a shooter, there's a shooter." It's every student now knows the protocol when you're in school. They always go over the protocol. Okay, this is what we're going to do when there's a school shooter, but you never think it's going to happen to you. And those were the thoughts running through my mind, and your adrenaline sky high. This is your fight or flight survival mode. And we make it to my car. We get inside my car, and me and my friend are turning to each other, like just praying that the shooter doesn't come to the parking garage, because we don't know where the shooter went, if he's still firing shots. And after about 10 minutes, we realize, okay, we think we're good. And this parking garage is gridlocked. And that's when I had caught a MAGA hat that some of Charlie's employees threw out, and I had put it on my dash as I was getting in my car. And an older gentleman saw it and made eye contact with me. He had caught one of those hats as well. And I rolled down my window and I said, "Sir, what'd you see?" And he said he was really up close and he didn't think he'd make it. And I remember I was on the phone with my dad just trying to hold back tears, because your hero just got shot at the event you want to be at. And all those emotions came dawning on you. And yesterday was, for me, worse than the day of the accident, because my adrenaline was so high all day that I was not in a normal state. But yesterday when I woke up and I turned on the TV, I look at my phone and you really realize what happened is real. You kind of start to get emotional, and something I'll never forget. It's changed me forever. I think this is America's turning point now. It's kind of ironic. That was the name of the movement that Charlie had started from the grassroots. Not only is this our turning point, but I believe we lost a future president. I saw videos of Charlie asked if he was going to be president, and he said he thinks he's causing more of a change now. It really looks like he's being humble, because he was such a humble person. But talking with some very close people to me, we all believe that we lost a future president yesterday.
Well, Colby Davis, I appreciate you giving us that firsthand perspective of being there. I think it makes it much more vivid for folks who are watching tonight, and for the rest of us. Good luck in the rest of your senior year. No student body or university should go through this. It happened, and best to you and all your classmates. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
All right. All right, folks, we got a lot more to get to this hour. Coming up next, how did they apprehend this killer? Plus, coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan investigates. 2 law enforcement officers are married. One is cheating. The other is shot and killed. Is it murder or suicide? Tonight, we investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan investigates tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
Saturday nights on ION
is our night.
Let's go! Double headers every Saturday at 7 and 10 p.m. Eastern. The new Saturday Night Out is on ION all season long.
Welcome back. We're going to take you out live to Washington, Utah right now, where Scripps News Group reporter Alyssa Bethencourt joins us from the suspect's family's neighborhood. Alyssa, thanks so much for joining us. What's been going on out in the neighborhood on the scene today?
Well, Vinny, let me just say we've been here since early this morning when this news first came out. The early morning hours were relatively quiet. Of course, this is a pretty tight-knit community, so people were coming out just wondering what was happening. Almost instantly, police here were able to block off this street behind the home. But for the most part, things were pretty quiet. Things really changed around 3:50 this afternoon local time here in Washington City, Utah. That's when the FBI were able to enter the home and search it. And then just about 30 minutes ago or so, we saw them tow away the car that officials believe was used when he drove up to that university in Utah earlier this week.
Interesting. So the car's been taken. Now, this home, this is his parents' home?
That's what we're hearing. It's the family home of Robinson. We also got some video earlier today from one of our affiliates. Apparently maybe an apartment that's linked to him in some capacity, but for the most part, the majority of the police activity has been here outside of the Robinson home. Let me give you a look really quickly at what we're seeing. You can see there's an FBI truck parked directly in front of us, also a Washington City police vehicle. And this is pretty much, again, what things have looked like throughout the entire day, with the exception of what we saw 30 minutes ago when that Dodge Challenger was towed away. What's so interesting about this, Vinny, is the fact that we were surprised the car was there to begin with. We would have expected it to already be taken as part of the investigation. All we saw investigators do today was take photos of it, but really nobody was fingerprinting it until about 30 minutes ago, again, when they towed it away from the scene.
Yeah, such an important part of the investigation, the vehicle, which the governor was talking about. How about, tell us a little bit more about this neighborhood in this part of Utah for folks like me who aren't familiar with it.
I mean, it is as small as you can imagine, right? A very tight-knit community. We are in Washington City, not too far from St. George. I believe the population is around 90,000 or so in the entire area, but Washington City much smaller than that. When something like this happens, a person is arrested for this crime, something that has made international headlines. A lot of people have been coming, just wondering, wanting to see what the investigation looks like. And because it's a small town, a lot of people know the Robinson family, specifically Tyler. They shared with us a lot about the family. Some of them said they were incredible, that they're part of the Mormon church here and are very involved. Students and classmates of his coming up to us as well, just describing him as a pretty quiet and friendly person that never really spoke about politics, somebody that was in a car club, and just totally unexpected to see that he was the person responsible for carrying out this shooting earlier this week. But you mentioned some of the people that we spoke with. I want to go ahead and play one of the interviews that we got earlier today. Somebody that says they knew him for the majority of his life, and this is how they described him to us.
Why? Why would he do that? Why? What was he thinking? Because he's smart and he's cute and he's part of our neighborhood. I saw him grow up. I would have never thought that.
Yeah, so I'm sure you just heard her, Vinny, say smart and cute, and that's pretty much what we've been hearing from a lot of people here today, aside from the fact that the majority are still in shock that he's the one responsible, again, for carrying out this shooting in Utah earlier this week with Charlie Kirk. But a lot of people still driving by. I'm looking down the street. Police, again, have put up this perimeter, but behind the caution tape, you can see a lot of people just curious about what's going on and where the investigation currently stands.
Absolutely. Alyssa Bethencourt, thank you so much. Appreciate the reporting. Folks, we have some breaking news right now. Erica Kirk, Charlie's widow, is speaking for the first time publicly. Let's take a listen.
Good evening. My name is Erica Kirk. Charlie Kirk is my husband. I first want to thank the local, state, and federal law enforcement who worked tirelessly to capture my husband's assassin so that he can be brought to justice. I want to thank the first responders who struggled heroically to save Charles's life, and the police who acted bravely to make sure that there were no other victims on that terrible afternoon. I want to thank the officers who have protected our Turning Point USA family these past 2 days. And I want to thank the Turning Point USA board, the COO, Justin Strife, and my husband's chief of staff, the amazing Mikey McCoy, for all their work in these terrible days to be the stability for our family and for the wider Turning Point USA family as well. My heart is with every one of my husband's employees who lost a friend and a mentor. I want to thank the staffers of his amazing Charlie Kirk show, who helped him broadcast from this studio, this chair. Every day he loved it. He loved what he did. I want to thank the millions of people who have shown their love for Charlie here in Phoenix, across America, and worldwide. I want to thank my husband's dear friend, Vice President Vance, and his phenomenal wife, Usha, for their love and support. You guys honored my husband so well, bringing him home. You both are tremendous. I want to thank President Trump and his incredible family for the same. Mr. President, my husband loved you. And he knew that you loved him too. He did. Your friendship was amazing. You supported him so well, as did he for you. 2 days ago, my husband, Charlie, went to see the face of his Savior and his God. Charlie always said that when he was gone, he wanted to be remembered for his courage and for his faith. And one of the final conversations that he had on this earth, my husband witnessed for his Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Now and for all eternity, he will stand at his Savior's side, wearing the glorious crown of a martyr. Charlie loved life. He loved his life. He loved America. He loved nature, which helped him always bring him closer to God. He loved the Chicago Cubs. And my goodness, did he love the Oregon Ducks. He'd want me to say go Ducks, so I have to since they play on Saturday. So go Ducks. But most of all, Charlie loved his children. And he loved me with all of his heart. And I knew that. Every day I knew that. He made sure I knew that every day. Every day he would ask me, how can I serve you better? How can I be a better husband? How can I be a better father? Every day. Every day. He was such a good man. He still is a good man. He was the perfect father. He was the perfect husband. Charlie always believed that God's design for marriage and the family was absolutely amazing, and it is. It is, and it was the greatest joy of his life. And over, he would tell all these young people to come and find their future spouse, become wives and husbands and parents. And the reason why is because he wanted you all to experience what he had and still has. He wanted everyone to bring heaven into this earth through love and joy that comes from raising a family. It's beautiful. Charlie always said that if he ever ran for office, I know a lot of you asked if he ever was going to, but privately he told me if he ever did run for office that his top priority would be to revive the American family. That was his priority. One of Charlie's favorite Bible verses was Ephesians 5, verse 25. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. My husband laid down his life for me, for our nation, for our children. He showed the ultimate and true covenantal love. I will never, ever have the words to describe the loss that I feel in my heart. I honestly have no idea what any of this means. I know that God does, but I don't. But Charlie, baby, I know you do too. I know you do. So does our Lord. And our world is filled with evil. But our God, you guys, our God is so good. He's so incredibly good. And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose. Already I have seen the worldwide outpouring of love for my husband. I've heard the testimonies from people my husband inspired to get married, to start families, to seek out a relationship with God. It's the most important one of all. The evildoers responsible for my husband's assassination have no idea what they have done. They killed Charlie because he preached a message of patriotism, faith, and of God's merciful love. But they should all know this. If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country. In this world, you have no idea. You have no idea the fire that you have ignited within this wife. The cries of this widow will echo around the world like a battle cry. To everyone listening tonight across America, the movement my husband built will not die. It won't. I refuse to let that happen. It will not die. All of us.
We'll be back. Side by side, what a contrast. On the left, Charlie Kirk, a man who wanted to exchange ideas and debate the big issues of the day. On the right, a man who wanted anything he didn't believe in silenced. The accused assassin of Charlie Kirk. Incredible contrast between those two. I want to bring in our think tank who's been standing by patiently tonight with all this breaking news. Joining us, criminal defense attorney Josh Colesrud, former law enforcement officer and host of the Strong Enough podcast, Claudia King, and entertainment host Holland Reed. Thank you, everyone, for being here. This is a story that obviously has impacted a lot of people on many different levels, and I think you all bring something, a unique perspective tonight that I'd like to hear from. Josh, I'll begin with you. He's been captured, he's been caught. We heard the governor talk about this is going to be a death penalty case. What are your thoughts about how this all will proceed from this point forward?
Yeah, sure, and thank you. You know, there are a few legal perspectives that I haven't really heard anybody talking about. The first is there might be a clergy penitent privilege, Rule 501, where a person who confesses to a pastor, in this case it would be the youth pastor, those statements may not be able to come in. And it'll be interesting to see, you know, how that plays out. Also, whenever there is an element of a political assassination, the Patriot Act, it's triggered. And what that does is it allows the government to investigate things in a way they wouldn't ordinarily be able to do. And in this case, there's an element of domestic terrorism. And what that means is the government now is going to focus on the group of people who enabled Mr. Robinson to commit the homicide, the assassination. So anybody on the Discord server that was in his group, that was, liking the comments, that gave him any type of encouragement, they're now going to be liable for criminal conspiracy. And then finally, we're all wondering, once he gave himself up, whether or not the police officers read him his Miranda rights. Now, there is an exception to that rule, a public safety exception is New York versus Quarles. And here, we just don't know yet. My gut instinct is that they didn't. And it's because there's an ongoing threat and they're allowed to ask them questions. And here, they're looking for the co-conspirators. And, that's going to be the next stage of development going forward.
Really interesting perspective that I haven't heard anywhere else. Claudia King, this case and the investigation and the evidence, what are your thoughts about how all this went down and the interaction of law enforcement looking for help from the public to capture this suspect?
I think that the public did an excellent job, and I think the public was very involved with law enforcement from the start. As far as the investigation goes, there's going to be a lot to go through, and I think even if there isn't a statement from the suspect, it may not matter because they're going to be able to look at all sorts of cell phone evidence. It was clear at one point in one picture he did have a cell phone in his pocket. Doesn't mean it was on, but if it was, they'll be able to geofence that in different locations. Also, because of the crowds there, there's going to be tons of cell phone footage and also just security camera footage throughout the campus, and then probably along his travel routes as well. So I think that law enforcement has a lot to go through, and thank goodness that the public and his family were willing to step up and help out and bring this suspect to the right place so that we can figure out what happened.
Holland, I'm interested in your perspective here tonight. You and I are kind of in the same business where we speak for a living. We speak publicly for a living. Sometimes we speak in crowds, sometimes it's just on television. What do you think is going to be the impact of this? Do you think people may shut down and not be as willing to speak their mind in areas of controversy where people don't necessarily agree, like anything political these days?
Vinnie, we're on the same page here. It is literally the universal nature of openness. It will put you in jeopardy of losing everything, and clearly including your life. And my heart goes out to the family. I just can't believe that he was actually willing to have these open conversations. And while I was not a big fan, I was willing to hear and listen what he had to say on different realms, which I do on a regular basis as a view. And I'm sure you might have gotten threats at some point in your career and life for being so opinionated. So being so outspoken cost you, and this cost him his life. And being so passionate about what you believe in costs you your life. And that's where the discourse is. And hopefully this is the turning point where we can say everyone's going to lose something moving forward if we do not come to an agreement where death is not the answer. It's just not the answer. The public conversations are the answer. But I do believe even someone so much as Angela Rye was in a space answering from conservatives just recently. And she listened, but thank God she's still alive to speak her truth. And I believe everyone has a voice. Everyone has that. But social media's voice goes so far that you don't know who you're going to reach. I've been approached in a grocery store before from someone I can't even believe would recognize me from a hole in the wall. And I know that most people on these platforms have that situation at some point in their life, and it is scary. But if we don't keep speaking up, I don't need us to be lambs to the slaughter, but we all have to still speak our minds and fight for the thing that we literally came to this country for, was our rights, our freedom of speech, our freedom to get along in different cultures and religions. And if we can't come together over some of the most powerful people, then I don't know. I don't know. It gives me, I'm giving Harvey Milk, and I'm not going to compare any of these people, but you can see that people that fought for peace, Martin Luther King, they fought for peace. They, no matter what you're fighting for, you're supposed to have the right to live in your bedroom, think what you think, do what you do. This is America. Like, what's going on?
We need to be able to speak to one another and exchange ideas, debate it, and we don't have to agree to everything. Josh Colesrud, Claudia King, Holland Reed, I know our time was short tonight, but it was very valuable. Thank you so much. When we come back, I'll reveal something else you need to know tonight, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, the tragic death of Officer Ellie Shea, married to another officer, is found shot to death in their home. Was this murder or was this suicide? Tonight, we investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
A young mother found brutally murdered.
Now, the victim's boyfriend, a married father of 4,
is charged for the murder of his alleged mistress and her unborn child.
The pregnant mistress murder trial. Live coverage Monday morning, only on Court TV.
Welcome back. Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board. The trailer has been released. Hulu's new scripted series, Murdoch, Death in the Family, premieres on October 15th. Take a look at some of the newly released trailer.
Find her? One's still missing. You get these kids to keep their mouth shut, and parents too.
How bad is this for us?
I'm working on a story. The Murdochs have a history of trying to cover things up.
You happen to run into any of Mr. Ellick's medication?
And you think he's taking it again?
What else is there that I don't know about?
We got to have each other's backs. Family first.
That looks good. That looks good. Telling the story through the eyes of Mandy Matney, the reporter who really broke this story wide open. Got to check it out. That'll be on Hulu. All right, folks, take a look at your screens. We have a missing child who needs your help tonight. This is Connor Allen Gross, 17 years old, missing out of Fruitland Park, Florida since the 2nd of September. If you see Connor, pick up the phone, make a call, make a difference. 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or the Fruitland Park Police Department in Florida. That number's on your screen. Let's see if we can get Connor to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. We have another hour of live true crime. Vinnie Politan Investigates is next. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.